Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Masks Off. I'm Kim.
And I'm Tia.
And we just decided that the Peacemaker mask was such a great topic. And we had such a great episode the last time on the Peacemaker. And then we realized there's a whole other side or a whole other part to wearing the Peacemaker mask. So we are recording a part 2 to the Peacemaker mask. Let me start with the quote. Avoidance is the best short-term strategy to escape conflict and the best long-term strategy to ensure suffering. And that's from Brendon Burchard. And, it's so good because this is so me. I forgot all about this part of the Peacemaker mask. I wore it for many years. I can remember being young, like in school, with teachers or peers. If anyone said anything that was opposite to what I was saying or feeling or thinking, thus like a conflict, I would just to keep the peace and to make sure that to ensure that I was still being accepted and having their approval, I would silence my true voice. But what does that ensure? Long-term suffering, or ensure suffering. That's the long-term, because now I'm denying my true authentic self by silencing my voice in order to avoid the conflict, thus keep the peace. So there's a whole other layer of the Peacemaker mask.
Right, exactly. So I have a question for you. You grew up with siblings. Did you do that with them as well, or was it more with outside of family?
Outside. Maybe, some with my parents. I don't remember so much with my sibling, but growing up, I wore more the other mask that we talked about in the other episode, where there was so much conflict going on amongst the other family members. And there was so much arguing and fighting. And that was so scary for me that I wanted to just I was like the counselor, the family counselor, and it wasn't just my parents and my sister and I think I shared before that I grew up in a 2-family home where my grandmother and my 3 older cousins lived downstairs and we lived upstairs. So it was like all of us. And they are like 10 years older than I. So if I was 10, they were like, 20, 19, 20, and 21, because they're very close in age. And so I can remember countless times wishing or wanting to get the whole family into family counseling. Like that was that part of the Peacemaker role, mask. But now, and so I'll just use like an example of current day. So as I've shared before, I'm doing this Wild Fit program, and I have a coach, a one-on-one coach that I'm going to have a session with today. And I know where I stand on the Wild Fit philosophy is in conflict to the Wild Fit program, because I've made some changes according to where they all are or where I'm supposed to be at this point.
Right.
And I'm anticipating in this coaching call that there's going to be conflict, because I'm going to show up and I'm going to say, I've made a decision to do something that I believe is best for me and in my best interest, but it's in conflict to what is being prescribed at this point in time.
Correct.
And I'm anticipating that the coach is going to try to push me into, oh, but you know what? You can still do it. Oh, don't give up, blah, 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 blah. Giving me all the reasons why I should continue. And I'm going to stay strong. I'm going to
Yay.
stay strong because I
Yay.
know I have to listen to my body.
Totally.
I'm going to take what I like and I'm going to leave the rest because I have learned that lesson. Take what you like, leave the rest.
Right.
But in the past, when I haven't been so strong, I would completely, especially if the person has a very strong personality, like a dominant personality type, I would do one of two things. Either I would listen and say, okay, yes, okay, okay, and then maybe still go do something different. But more often than not, I would listen to what the person was saying and then go do it.
So you would do it
Yes.
anyway.
Yes.
Okay,
And betray myself.
I was just going to say, so you were peacemaker, not just in quieting what you believe, what's right for you. You actually would do what they told you to do. Yes. So it's even another layer, because it's not just, I'm not going to create the conflict with you, but I'm going to do it anyway because I know what's best for me. So you abandoned yourself
totally
twice, not just once.
Twice. First arrow, second arrow.
Wow, look at that. That's such good. But so now, so I'm curious on your evolution with this peacemaker mask in regards to conflict, avoiding conflict, not stepping in trying to break up conflict like we did in part one.
This is avoiding.
But preventing a conflict with another directly.
Exactly. That's how I'm keeping peace with that person, by just avoiding it.
So, okay, so you used to not speak up.
Yep.
Or, talking about anything, you didn't voice your opinion. And then if someone told you what to do, what was best for you, that's what you did.
Yep.
That's
or
original.
if I just, And if I had to just do something, like, for example, I can remember being, I don't know, like 18 or 19, somewhere around that age, maybe, I don't remember the age. My mother would say, if like so-and-so, a distant cousin, aunt, whatever died, she would say, are you going to the wake? Actually, I think I was older. I was already living outside the house. So I must've been like an adult or married. So-and-so, Aunt Sally, whatever, died. Are you going to go to the wake? And I would say, like, no, I'm not going to the wake, because I don't feel like, I don't feel a need to. Well, what do you mean? What do you mean? How are you not going to Aunt Sally's wake? Like, you need to go. That's so like disrespectful. And then I'd end up going to the wake. Like, that's the kind of, you know what I mean? That would be, or honestly, sometimes I wouldn't even say, no, I'm not. I would just know my mother like wanted me to go, and it would be a conflict if I didn't. So I would just say, oh, all right, I'm going.
It's just easier to go.
It's just easier to go. Just keep the peace at all costs. Keep the peace at all costs.
Because you can handle it. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. And it would be harder for me to handle if I had the conflict and then that person was mad at me. Like, that was the thing I had to avoid, is having someone be upset with me.
Right.
And think that I was a bad girl.
Yeah. So it comes back to that for you.
Yeah.
So once you started, I'm just curious your evolution, and for our listeners too. So then you started to notice this. Did the transition happen that you now spoke your truth and did what was best for you? Or was it, okay, I'm not going to speak my truth, but I'm still going to do what's best for me, or the other way? I'm just curious, because there's two layers. So which layer peeled away first?
I don't speak the truth. I just do what's best for me.
Okay. So that was you stayed true to yourself in your actions.
Yes.
You just didn't use your voice.
Exactly.
So now you're using your voice more as well.
Yes. Yes. Because I will, in this coaching call, coming back to that, she's going to ask me, what have you decided? What did you decide to do, since we last talked? And I'm going to share with her that I'm no longer following the Wild Fit program to the T, to the extreme, or to the point that they're at in the program right now. I'm making modifications because that's what's best for me. Yep. And I am anticipating that she's going to not be happy with that, not be happy with my decision. And she's going to, in some way, shape, or form, try to change my decision. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't have a crystal ball, but I have a gut feeling that's the way the conversation is going to go.
Or she may say, try this, then just try that.
Yes.
Can you do this piece?
Yes. That's very possible too. So I do still feel the angst.
Yeah.
That's normal. That's natural. I still feel the angst about this upcoming conversation because it still could be conflict, and I hate it. I hate conflict, but I will speak up and I will do what's best for myself. But as you said, or to answer your question again, what I just started to do was just do me and not always speak up. You know, even even at family gatherings, like if they're talking about one thing and it's in complete like unaligned, what's the word? Not in alignment with the way that I think or the way that I believe, I will often just not say anything. And that's a conscious choice too, because
I was just gonna
conscious
say
choice.
that gets a little grayer.
Yes, because I know that for, I know these people well enough and where they stand on many, many subjects. And so sometimes, I'll give you a better example. So we recently had company and the conversation came up about race. And that was an interesting one. And, we've had so many conversations we've had conversations and I've learned so much more about what racism really is.
Yeah.
And what these people think being racist means.
Yeah.
And thinking that they weren't, but I know that the comments that they were making were based upon what I've learned. And so they said a few things about race, and I normally would say nothing at all. Like I would just let them be them. I mean, I'm not trying to change them or their way of thinking, but I would often silence my own voice.
Yeah.
And so I ended up just sharing like a personal experience that was in conflict or in conflict to what they were saying, knowing that what I said could be received very poorly, because in a way I was like, they could have perceived it as if, well, I just said this and now you're contradicting me and like you're calling me out kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was sticky. It was a sticky situation, a sticky conversation. And so sometimes I consciously choose. And what I did was I kind of tapped into my gut, and my gut was like, oh, it was squeezing. It was like, you gotta say something.
You got the time. You stay quiet.
You gotta speak up. You gotta speak up. And then other times it's just like, nah, you don't really need to say anything, with this one, because it's not gonna make or break.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And you already know your truth.
And I already know my truth, and it's not that big of a deal. So that's where I am, and I would not have done that before, because the fear would always be, well, again, what if they don't like me?
Right.
What if they get really mad? It's more about someone getting really mad at me, because I hated when my mom got mad at me as a kid.
Yeah.
I just always wanted to be I was always such a good, I was a good girl, we're all good kids, right? We're not.
Right.
And I hated having anyone mad at me. I hated if the teacher got mad at me. Like that was awful. Oh my God, if I got in trouble by the teacher, holy cow, no way. So here I am now 52. And I was thinking like, well, what if they get mad at me saying this? Because I was not proving them wrong, but it could be interpreted as I was trying to like prove them wrong and call them out. You know what I mean?
Versus showing a different perspective and experience.
Just showing a different perspective, which is
all I was there.
I was just shining a light. Like, you know what? There's another way to see this same situation.
Exactly. And we don't know what we don't know until someone shines a light there.
Yeah.
How was it received? If you want to share, if you don't want
to. It was received okay. It wasn't like, the one of the couple got it more than the other, and kind of gave like you know what? Yeah, I get that. Or I see that, or shared. The other one didn't really say much.
Yeah. And then how did you feel after you shared it?
I was fine.
Your stomach unwound.
Yeah, I was fine. Again. Yes. Yeah.
And I love that. I mean, there's so many layers, because you really showed that sometimes being a peacemaker doesn't always mean speaking up. Sometimes, because it comes back to our inner peace, right?
Right.
Like the quote from the part 1 of the Peacemaker
Yep.
mask. It's the peace is within us. So the first example you used of whatever situation, you didn't use an actual example, but just sometimes I feel like I don't have to speak up, and I have the same experience. And it's like, okay, I already know. I don't need to convince anyone. I may or may not have expressed it before, but I don't, it's not going to bring any value. It's not going to change my inner peace. But when I have to speak up, because I've been in similar situations in the one you just shared, that I have to speak up. Otherwise, I'm just shoving it down, and I wouldn't be true, and my inner peace would be knocked out of balance if I didn't say something. And
Completely.
It's without that attachment. Like, I'm not looking to change another, but I can't stand by and have you believe I'm agreeing with you.
Yes. Yes.
And so, like everything, it's that dance and the both and like, it doesn't mean you always speak your truth. You don't always have to speak your truth, because it's already in alignment with you. And it also may not be safe to do so in certain situations for yourself.
Yeah.
And such a beautiful thing of you witnessing. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But what you did is you did an inner check-in to know. So your peacemaker mask wasn't showing up because you went within.
And isn't that what we always talk about? Like in most of our episodes, it's
right.
Always go within.
Totally.
It's always check in. Even with the wild fit stuff, I'm having to check in with my body.
Exactly. Because it's
and
giving
listen
you
to
feedback.
it's giving me feedback. It's telling me. And the same thing, my body spoke to me with the couple that was over.
Yep.
Like I felt it in my gut. That was checking in with my body. I listened to my body. The body, didn't we say something once? The body always speaks or something?
Something like that. Yeah, because it's always talking to us. And so in this shift within you with this mask, before, when you weren't listening to yourself, and because you still were having those feelings.
I was.
You still were having that inner turmoil, whether you were aware of it or not. And you shove it down, shove it down, shove it down. It eventually something has to give.
Yeah.
Right. And so now that you're so in tune and so in touch, it becomes more clear. You have more clarity of when to open your mouth.
Yeah.
But either way, in your transition, you've said you're living your choices and your truth.
Yes.
It's just whether or not you speak your truth in each
100%.
So and that's the thing with this conflict stuff, because sometimes we don't need to create conflict. Sometimes people create conflict just to create it. The other opposite of the non-peacemaker, they thrive on conflict. But
and that's
step
true,
in
because
when you want to and when you don't want to. And that's the
beauty. I love that point, because I can also, with this coaching call, I can also listen to what she has to say when she wants to say, well, you could do it this way. And at the end of the call, I could say, you know what? Thank you very much for all of your advice. Thank you for your input. I will take it all into consideration. Thank you. And then decide from there whether, I don't have to sit there and continue to defend my choices. Because sometimes that can happen.
Yeah, that's a really good other layer.
It's another layer, because sometimes I will sit there and defend and defend and defend, and the person will keep saying, yes, but.
And then you're trying to convince someone of something they're not gonna, so then it becomes into ego, right? Because if you're having to defend,
yes,
are you coming from your truest, most aligned self?
No,
because you're attached to an outcome of convincing the other person to change, just like they're attached to their outcome
of getting me to change, right? So and what's the thing is that we cannot change or control people, places, and things. We can only control or change ourselves. And that's the Serenity Prayer. That comes back to the peace that we're talking about.
Yes.
Right? So if I'm going to try to convince anyone of anything, I'm trying to change or control them.
Right.
Thus losing my peace.
Correct.
Giving my peace away. Right. So I can just either in this call, I can either, yes, assert myself and speak up and say, well, I mean, obviously I will initially tell her what what I've chosen to do.
Yeah.
And then if she tries to change me, control me in any way, shape, or form, I can just say, again, thank you very much.
Right.
Appreciate your advice.
Yeah. I mean,
I'll
and
take it into consideration.
it's such a great example too, because you won't know till you're in it, of course.
Yes.
But you may be stepping in with your voice and stepping back.
Yep. In and out,
Right.
dancing.
It's not all or nothing. Nothing is
Yeah.
all or nothing. It doesn't have to be.
Right.
It's the both and, not the either or.
Right.
Ooh, great example. I love it.
Yeah. So this is dancing with the Peacemaker mask.
That's right.
We'll see.
Is it?
Yeah.
Love it.
So this was great. This was a great part two. I like when we do sometimes, two parts to a topic.
Me too.
So.
Even if they're not always back to back in the episode, line up, just because.
Yeah,
but it's
just
fun
the way
to
things
revisit.
fall. Yeah, absolutely.
Ooh, good luck with your call. I know you're just going to be tapping into that inner knowing and what your body's telling you.
Totally. Yeah.
Great.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for listening. And, as always, we love and we appreciate any feedback from you. We like to know what's going well and what we can improve upon. So,
or if there's any topic
that you would like for us to talk more about, you can put it in the comments section, and you can certainly hit a like or subscribe if you want to.
Thanks, everyone, and have a good rest of your day.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.